Going to call to order the Whitman Aid to the Elderly and Disabled Taxation Fund Committee. Present are John Galvin.
Ryan Trussell.
Sharon LaPiccolo.
Ken Layla.
And John Noska is absent. He is not feeling well. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes from the previous meeting?
Yes.
Sharon,
Yes.
are you done?
Yes.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the April 16th, 2025 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Yeah, it's so much easier having the audio to go back and do the minutes from.
Yeah.
Because it's just, don't worry about it now, just go and do it later. You know, so, all right, sounds good. So, next up on the agenda, we wanted to get an update from Sharon on the creating the special account in the general treasury.
And just to let you know, we don't have an accountant right now in-house.
Okay.
Full-time accountants. We have someone that comes in once a week.
Right.
Last week he was with the auditors. This week he was continuing to finish up with the auditors.
Okay.
So we're in his in-basket, third one down. He couldn't get it done.
That's okay.
In his allotted time.
Right.
But it is in his basket. He wanted
So it is, just so that we understand exactly what we're doing here, we're creating a
account in the general.
a general accounting line in the general fund.
Correct.
For money to filter in when it is donated.
Correct.
Good.
I did reach out to our printer, and he gave me a sample of what there. I did.
Oh, okay.
I did
thank
something.
you. Hey, there we go.
I whited out the person's name for
Yeah,
confirmation
okay, I
address.
can understand.
But they just
yeah.
gave this is Hanson, and this is how they handle it.
Oh, Hanson has one?
Yep, that's what they sent me to. Yeah.
Oh, well.
Wow, they don't have a very good presence online
Well,
then. Okay, so where does
Say
it?
just in the middle page. So at the top would be what you keep for your taxes. That gives
Right.
you your
Okay.
assessment and everything. So then this would be probably your fourth quarter and your third quarter.
Oh, there's it.
See, they put it. You check it off.
Oh, okay.
They
Yes,
give you
yes. Okay,
everything's
check
small
off.
here.
Yeah.
They've got their amount of their taxes is $12.60, and then that's what's due, and they check off what they want to
So
contribute.
that's their
Well,
education
now do.
fund.
Amount of contribution to.
Oh yes,
right.
yes.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
that
Yes,
makes
it's
sense.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay, yeah,
This is how
that's
they
cool.
handle.
Right,
I'm sorry,
right.
adding
So
donations.
to be exactly
your
like that.
bill.
Okay,
Yes,
yeah, yeah.
it could be. Yes.
Okay, so that that's obviously something that we want to do. We want to have this everywhere.
Right. Right.
So we'll put it on there. What was the other thing they said? Oh, on the
Online.
web, online
Yeah,
on the
yeah.
website. So any update on?
I reached out to Josh. I haven't heard back
Okay.
from him. But I looked at Plymouth. They do it just like they do real estate,
Right.
personal property, right underneath. I can't see there being a problem.
Right, I agree. I
But
agree
just
as
the
well.
logistics, I reached out to Josh. But I haven't
okay.
heard
So
back
we,
from him.
we can work. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
we're not set up yet, really,
Yeah.
but it's good to know. And then, what was? I thought there was another way that it said in the general law. Anyway, whatever. They can. I mean, they can just walk in and make donations to write a check or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Well, that's cool. So I'll leave that on the agenda for the next time.
Yes.
We got to talk about next time in a bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's not on our agenda, but anyway. Okay. So that's great. Thank you very much. And that's awesome. That's awesome. Okay. So. The next things, obviously, there's a number of them that we're talking about, and we talked about them at the last thing, and that's we discuss and possible vote on the following items, and that's minimum age requirement, years of residency, income limits, disabled definition, and date applications are due. Now, I think it's, in my opinion, and I'll leave it up to you guys, that we should talk about all of them at once and then vote each one individually. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, does anybody have any comments to start? Because I know I have comments and other comments first.
So I mean, I guess if we're going in order on
Yeah.
the, I think the first thing was age,
right.
and so I'll just say this as I guess I'm usually not the youngest person in the room, but I'm the youngest person in the room here. Like 60 seems young to me.
Nowadays.
Right. I agree.
Nowadays,
Yeah.
I feel like
I agree.
I'm 46, and
Yeah.
so 60 does not seem.
I'm 62. I'm
Yeah.
not ready
Yeah.
to.
To say that you're elderly yet, like it
65,
just seems so I feel
Yeah.
like 65 is a good a good age personally for me. I just feel like
I agree.
60 seems, because I saw a couple of them had 60, and that
Yeah.
just seemed a little young to me. And it might
Yeah.
be, and who knows? They also might have set this up a long time ago when 60 was older. 60 isn't old now, as far as I'm concerned.
All right, so since we have a consensus on that,
Yeah.
I entertain a motion to use 65, and I know I'm going against what I just said,
Yeah.
but since we have such a good consensus here, I entertain a motion to utilize 65 as the minimum age for this.
So moved.
There you go. Second it.
Second, okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. All right, 65. So maybe I'm changing that. Changing the way.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm flexible.
Okay, yeah.
There you go.
All right. So second would be years of residency.
I was reading different articles, different of the information you gave us from different towns. They range anywhere from 2 years to a year up to 5 years.
I think I like 5. I think they should be. Have
Yeah, I
some,
know,
some
that's what I
stuff.
was
So I was
thinking
looking
myself.
at. I was looking at Ken that sheet that you gave us on the CPA low income form that I emailed out to everybody.
Yes,
that one you
yeah.
sent me. And that was 5 years resident in Massachusetts. So I kind of was going by that too. And I
that's-
kind of want to see. You got to have a vested.
That-
A vested, you're here for you're not just coming in and I'm going to move to Whitman because I'll make it some money. I don't want to do that. I mean, I want to have people here that, and honestly, in my opinion, the longer you're here, that's going to influence me. I mean, that's not obviously going to go on our requirements, but when I see somebody that's been here 50 years and somebody that's been here 5,
Yeah.
I'm and they're even, I'm going to look at that and say, well, the 50-year person,
And I, from the end of collecting the money from them, that's what people say. I've been in town my whole life. Now I can't afford to live here.
Right.
That's
Oh, yeah.
who I feel like we're reaching
right,
out to
exactly,
first, right?
Exactly.
Now, for residency, too, I know a lot of them say Massachusetts. But do you want to specify
So
for the town?
we can get into that later when we talk about the application.
Okay.
Because I think in going through a lot of the applications, there's detailed there, and I actually took the time to. There was one application I particularly liked, so I customized it for Whitman already. So
Okay.
later on in our new business, we can discuss the application. I'll pass it out to you guys. I didn't want to influence because I put my things in the application for what we're discussing now, so I didn't want to do that. But anyway, so all right. Well, let's just we're rolling this way. I think I'll take a
So just to be clear, this is 5 years resident in Whitman.
5 years resident in Whitman.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Residency, years of residency in town.
Okay, in town.
Yeah,
All right.
because I know I just heard residency in Massachusetts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was on something that I had emailed out that Ken had put together for us.
But that also might be kind of self-selecting too. Because if you're an elderly person who buys a house in Whitman a year ago, you're probably not going to be, hopefully, in financial dire straits a year
Alright,
into
yeah.
owning just buying a house.
Correct, especially with anybody coming into town now. Hopefully, is getting doing their homework and seeing what's going on, and so yeah, I agree 100%. So I'll entertain a motion to use 5 years of town residency as our requirement.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. That's 5. Okay, so this one's going to be a little bit more complex. Income limits. So I did some research trying to figure out what the 80% of Whitman's median income is. And I guess I ought to pass this out now. This is the application this is Easton's application.
Okay.
Which I found, there were 2 applications that I found to be really well done. Easton's and Hingham's.
Yeah.
Hingham's was just way too long and complex. It's like 8 pages long. Easton's was 4 pages long. So basically, most of this is word for word from Easton's, except I changed Easton to Whitman, and as you can see, I put 6. They had 60. I had put 65.
Right.
I think they had 5 years, but anyway.
Yes.
So area medium income. So if you look at the link under that chart, I clicked on that link and I searched Whitman, so it brings up. Let's see if I can get it here. I should have printed it out. It brings up the HUD.gov website
Okay.
and allows you to plug in the town that you're at. And what it did is basically did regions. So basically we were grouped into the Brockton region. And that was the 80% medium income that it said is for Whitman. I mean, if you look at this, it actually says Whitman town is part of the Brockton HUD. So to me, if that's 80%, so these are the Whitman numbers that are on that, what this website said. Seems high to me.
Low income, the same.
So
one
that's
person,
so that's
low income.
so anybody below that is eligible. So good news is, I guess, we're allowing more people to apply.
Yeah.
That doesn't, just because if somebody comes in at 68.4 and we're running them up against somebody that's getting 52,
Yeah.
well, the decision's going to be clear for us, I think. So maybe that's a good thing that it seems high, because it's going to allow more people to apply. I don't know. What
Is 68 considered high? Because I'm looking at the CPA that Whitman has listed. They started at 76.
So Easton's was 74, I think,
Okay.
is what it was. All right, so maybe that's it. I mean, I guess I'm struggling understanding area medium income versus the town average income, because I know the town average income is, I believe, less than that. I want to say it was.
Oh, really? Okay. All right. I don't know.
I was trying to find that because I saw it somewhere. I forget where I saw it. I think it was in one of the school documents.
Well, so you're saying that because I've seen a number smaller as well, so I'm thinking it might be average. So if the average is lower than the median, that means that there's a lot more lower income people in town, because the median, it just tells you what number's in the middle.
Okay.
Right. And so if you average them together,
So the median
that means there's a lot more.
The median
low
is
low.
the actual. Okay,
This,
it's been a while since I've been to high school, so that's why I'm getting good. This is good.
You basically put all the incomes together. You list them all up, and then you basically say what is the income in the what's exactly in the middle.
Okay.
And averages, you add them all together and find the average.
Okay, all right.
So
So
if the average is lower than the median, that means that there's a lot. The low income is low income.
I knew I liked this guy.
Because it means it's so if the average is because a lot of times what happens with median is, and why, for example, like when you look at, a lot of times they give median data is because a lot of times, for example, like at home, when they usually do when you look at like what is the median price of a home in a town, it's because the huge houses that they might have in those developments will skew the average higher than it actually is, right?
Okay.
Because if you have a house that's a million,
Right.
and then but most of the houses it gives you a sense of a closer sense to what is. So, but if the average is lower, that means that there's going to be a lot more lower income people. I don't think there's any problem, like you said, having as kind of wide a berth as possible for what we'll accept, because then we can make decisions as as opposed to limiting it, making it lower, because there could be some people. And then the other thing about this too is that also kind of affords us the ability to not have to change the application as often, right? Like if we set it low, and then like, for example, like we have to like update it more frequently, so you know what I mean? Like if we,
I would. Again, it didn't take me very long because
Okay,
I had
that's
the
true,
document. This was based on This was their 2000. This was Easton's fiscal year 25 application, and this was the link that came up with the 24 median. So I don't know how you do fiscal year 26, because 25 is still going.
Right. Well, that's why I think saying a little bit like if this is a little high, that's probably better.
Yeah.
Right, because then you're going to catch more people that might be might get cut off. For example, if like we're using 24 numbers. Right. And then it's 25, and it's it just gives us a little bit more wiggle room in terms of, or not us wiggle room, it gives applicants wiggle room, so that more people can apply. And like you said, if there are people that are, that are like at 68.4, and there's someone who's at 52, we can make that decision as a committee. We don't, you know.
Right. So basically, then we're saying that works, and 80% of that's the area medium income. So maybe if there's a way we can figure out what the Whitman.
Yeah.
But so we're going to say, I mean,
So is this now? I'm sorry, just to be clear. So this number here, is that the? Did you already make it 80%, or is that the
this
actual
is
number
what
combined?
this website says was 80%
Okay.
for Whitman for fiscal year 24.
Okay.
Well, not for Whitman, for the Brockton,
Brockton
area,
area,
metro area. So and this again, this was on Easton's application. So this is how they're getting their data too.
Yeah.
Because when I first clicked on it, it came up. Did it come up, Easton? No, I didn't. It allowed me to put in the town that I wanted to get, and you know, so this is how they're doing it. And there were other options. There were, you know, it came up low. So this is quote low 80% income limit is what this is. They had extremely low limits, which was 50%, and then, I'm sorry, very low, which was 50%, and then extremely low limits, which they didn't give what the percentage was. But I mean, it went down to 45.5, all the way down to 27.3. So again, it seemed like everybody was using 80% median, and those are those numbers, which, you know, I just wanted to get them in there so that we could see, you know, what it looked like. I think it worked for us. Now, I don't think we need to go into detail at this point on what other things we're going to ask for. I think we can do that when we go into the application standpoint on it. So if we just want to vote on that we're going to use 80% area median income, I would take that motion right now.
So moved.
All right, seconded. And that's left open for further discussion.
Further discussion
Okay.
on other criteria that we will require when somebody, I mean, you're going to have an income, and then you're going to have other things that affect, you know, people are going to have.
Right.
You know,
IRA distribution.
yeah, I mean,
Okay.
there's going to be lots of other things that we would outline and actually, if you look right above it, it says what Easton requires. So anyway, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Great. So 80%. All right, next one is disabled definition. So not a whole lot of people had a lot of details on that. Too.
No.
I think there was one that did, but I think if we look up at the top there where it says
Eligibility.
disabled is defined for the purpose of this application as a person who is not able to work.
Yeah.
Supporting documentation will be necessary to prove this status.
Right.
I haven't figured. I think you mentioned at the last meeting what a supporting documentation might look like. There was some document that I questioned on what it was, and you came up with. It doesn't matter right now.
Yeah.
What it,
The
but
SSDI it was, the Social
Yeah.
Security
there
Disability.
you go. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you. Yeah. So I mean, I think that to me that's a pretty open category, and I think to me that works. But I'm open to what other people have to say.
Yeah, I guess that would be, I guess, the only. I think the one thing that and again, depends on like the work that we want, you know, as a committee. Like I'm kind of a soft touch. So like I'm kind of like, but I think if we say like, so I'm playing devil's advocate here a little bit. If we say like supporting documentation was necessary to prove this status, we're kind of opening up the idea that the committee's going to be getting a lot of questions about what documentation that we want.
Okay.
Right. So I think that's like I said. I would think that like obviously there are people who are disabled, and like I said, like some of these have like, you know, Social Security disability insurance. They've gone through some other government process to prove that they're disabled. And you know, and the thought would be that most people probably who are going to be claiming this will have some kind of documentation. But I guess the question is, if we just say it will be determined by us, or that they have to provide supporting documentation, like I guess the question is, people will be wanting to know what that documentation is. So does it make sense to find out what that documentation is and put on the application to cut down on Because I just think about if you are because the one thing, this is coming back, now I'm switching back to the other side. If I think about people who are, who are elderly, who are disabled, what have you, I think sometimes if they're not sure what they need to provide, would that discourage them maybe from applying at all?
So, Plainville. Applicant must currently be receiving disability benefits from a government-sponsored program based on determination of disability. That's Plainville. Easton, we already have. Hingham, a person who is not able to work, supporting documents, same thing. Plymouth must have SSDI or private disability insurance, must meet the income and asset requirements as stated. Seekonk, determination of disability eligibility is at the sole discretion of the committee.
Yeah, I would vote not that one.
Yeah.
I would vote not that one.
Yeah.
I don't want to be having to determine,
No,
Yeah.
no.
doing like investigative work to make sure
yeah.
these people are disabled. I think.
So Plainville, applicant must currently be receiving disability benefits from a government-sponsored program based on determination of disability.
There you go.
Because I think isn't there another spot on here
Yeah.
that says you can also do have extreme circumstances. You know what I mean? Or one of them had that. We're not putting that comments. There was, I thought one of them said like, do you have any other comments that we need? You know what I mean? No.
Well, one of the applications,
Yeah.
I think you're right. One of the applications did have. There's a thing like
Yeah.
there's a comment section on this one
Okay.
under the where it says federal. After you fill out the owners, the record, other adult residents,
Yeah.
and then there's a comment, number and age of dependents. So I don't know. I mean, like I said, I just think that I would not want to make it. I would want to make it as easy as
Yeah.
possible for people to. Because I know that that's obviously an issue. And looking through some of the applications that you gave us, the sample ones, and seeing how thorough and they are, and that is definitely something that can be a deterrent sometimes if you're I feel
agree.
like there's this
That's why I like this Easton one.
I think the Eastern one was a good one as well. So I just like I said, looking at something like Plainville, where it says you must currently be receiving disability benefits from a government sponsored program based on a determination of disability, letting someone else, some other agency, determine the disability, so that we're not having to determine it.
Right.
Because I think that is something that would just be kind of onerous and I think difficult.
Yeah.
Because I think that we don't have the resources to be. If someone goes, "Oh, I can't work," and you're like, we're going to be looking at notes from doctors. What are we going to be looking at?
Yeah.
And I think that
True.
that might be something. Just because the one I said, I think it would be difficult for us to be, and also answering questions. Like if people are coming to us looking, or most likely coming to you, John, I'm going to guess, but asking questions about well, what do I need? What kind of documentation I need? So I think if we can be as clear as possible in the application about what we need from them, that might make it easier for them and more likely for them to do it. Because also too, we could, if we don't put anything, and they could have all sorts of documentation, we get in these big packets with all sorts of personal stuff that we don't need, right? So I think that would be my thought, is just maybe saying that you have to be having, you have to have some kind of government disability benefit already.
So
I don't know, but I'm also open to other things.
No. So I mean, I do like the Plainville one, which is what we just said.
Yeah.
And then Plymouth says you must have SSDI or private disability insurance. So what would be the difference? If somebody has SSDI, they must already be receiving disability benefits from a government-sponsored program.
Right. So I think the difference between Plainville and Plymouth, and I'm going to be honest, I don't know all of the government programs that would give you provide for you for disability. I just don't have that knowledge. But I think that I think that it's Plainville is more inclusive than Plymouth, because I'm assuming, but again, I don't want to speak because I don't know in terms of if everyone gets. You might be disabled but not be qualified for SSDI, but you have some other government program that is providing you with benefits for your disability. So as long as it's a government, like you said, a government-sponsored thing that they have determined that you were disabled and unable to work, then I think that's why I like Plainville a little more than Plymouth, just because I just don't know for certain.
I do too. So,
I'm not sure for certain if there is a circumstance where you might not get SSDI, but you do qualify for another disability program.
This is what I was saying. Seekonk on page 3 says, use this space for any comments you feel the committee should be aware of at the end. I don't know if that's something we wanted to, you know what I mean?
But Seaconk's also the one that says that it's sole.
Discretion of the. Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, yep.
So we know why they're doing that.
Yeah.
You know, like I got run over by a truck last
Plead,
week, you
plead
know?
your case.
Right.
Here you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I mean,
write us
you know.
write us a 3-page
Yeah.
essay on why.
Yeah.
Okay, so
No.
I think we're under the agreement that I'll take a motion that the disabled definition will be applicant must currently be receiving disability benefits from a government-sponsored program based on determination of disability.
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Plain bill. That's easy. Okay. Last thing, date applications are due. I know they're kind of all over the place. I think Whitman tends to set its tax rate late in the month of October.
Yeah.
This year it was even later, much later. So I'm thinking, at least in my opinion, that we want to put a date that's after the average time that we set the tax rate, because people aren't going to really know until the tax rate is set what the deal's going to be. Yeah, that's my opinion anyway. I mean, we may even want to go later than, I was thinking November 1st. That's what I wrote down on this thing. But I'm thinking now, as I talk to myself, we may even want to maybe go December 1st. I don't think it's going to take us that long. I mean, I guess question would be, how much does have to happen before?
Yeah, we try to get to the printers by the 15th of December, the bills, in order to get them in the mail January 1st.
Okay.
And you'd want the bill, you would want that reflected on their
So
tax bill.
so-
I like November 1st.
November 1st.
I do like November 1st.
Should we go
It's
earlier?
a
but
month.
is it- but is
It's
the-
your
but is
month,
the
right?
Should we go earlier?
I was thinking October 1st, only because that way, I mean, we only meet monthly. Are we going to
Yeah.
be the ones making the decision?
Well, I think the time comes when
We
that
gotta have
comes,
some
we're going to
time.
have to meet it quicker than that. But I mean,
Okay.
you know,
Yeah.
we'll get, if we get them all in on whatever the date is, we have a couple meetings to go through them all, and third meeting we decide or something like that. It's kind of what I had in mind. But a lot depends. I mean, I have a feeling we'll probably get a lot, especially where we've got a pretty high income there. I think we could have a lot.
Don't forget, you'll run into the holidays around.
Yeah, well,
know,
what Sharon's saying though is we
November.
have to make a decision before
the end
December
of the year.
1st?
before December 1st.
Yeah, that would be ideal.
Oh, before December.
Before.
Because, well, we try to get
she
them by
has-
the 9th. Yeah, we have to get the bills.
So you got to remember,
Right.
these all have to get processed,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the credits have to get on the
On
bills.
the tax bills.
The
yes.
tax bills
Yep.
go out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, and the other thing too is, again, how the money's going to have to get transferred somehow. I don't know how that's going to work. It's going to come out of the account that we're making out, and how it's going to get applied to each one. That's going to be an accountant's thing,
Yeah.
and we don't
But they
have.
have time.
And that-
They
and
won't
that-
be due till February 1st.
And then I have a question too: is so how is this being distributed across the year? Like, is it going to be for example, like if we decide to give them some relief, is that going to be split up over the 4 quarterly payments? Is that going to be
I would think.
Third
so.
and you do third
No.
and fourth if it's fiscal year 26.
Okay.
You can either split it like they used to.
Similar
I
to what
think-
they do for the seniors and the widowers right now.
But they
You
used to
talked to-
do third and fourth. They used to do both quarters.
No, when I
Yeah.
dealt with Wendy downstairs, it was always, what was it? I think the end of January you had to have your appeal or your, what do they call it? The application put in anyways, not appeal, but
Yeah.
it's whatever it is anyways. By the time they look at it and everything else, your third quarter bill is already out.
Yeah. Well, we're
So
already,
it goes
we're
into the
doing
fourth
it.
quarter.
We're doing it before. I mean, we're
Right.
getting them in for because when that December 15th, that's the first. Or is that the second quarter that you're doing December 15th?
We're doing the third and fourth quarter.
Third and fourth.
Yeah.
So we want they get them in the mail January 1st, do
Right.
February 1st, and then May. They
So
get them
split it
February
up.
in the
So
mail.
it's split up
I
over
like
the
to split up, but
split
And
them
then-
up.
and I
That
think
would
it's
make
Split it
sense.
up, okay.
yeah.
But then this is
Yeah.
if the tax rate is set in October, does that take place for the first
So
quarter of the
basically,
next year?
July 1st and September 1st are like estimated.
August, August
so
and
you have-
November. A preliminary.
okay,
Preliminary. Yeah, they're just
Right.
guesses.
Okay.
Right.
And then
They get
I didn't,
adjusted.
So those two would be higher, and then it would get applied to the third and fourth, where they'd see the reduction in the third and fourth, right?
yeah.
Okay, there you
Yeah.
go. And what date you shooting for? November 1st?
November 1st.
I'm glad you're not going any later. Yeah, if you want to go
November
earlier.
1st.
Yeah.
I was, like I said,
like
I was
October
thinking
1st?
if we want to have it done by December
December 1st.
1st,
Yeah.
I would almost give us at
So
least a
based
couple
on
of
what we're
months.
just saying there, I don't think it matters. My point was having the tax rate already set.
Yeah.
I don't think it matters.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
No.
Why don't we go October 1st?
Well, and then so this is to. So if you are if you're a senior on that is under financial strain, the way that we're doing this is that so they would apply every year
Yeah.
for it.
Yes,
But
yeah.
then they're always going to be paying the first 2 quarters the full amount,
Yep.
right?
But wouldn't that estimate change based on the third and fourth
Yes.
quarter changes? So
Yeah.
if they're reduced third and fourth quarter, that first and second quarter estimate is going to most likely be lower because their third and fourth were lower. So if
From
they-
the previous
They
from
base
the
it.
previous year.
But would it be
I don't know,
because
Sharon,
it's-
is that true?
They base it on that.
They base it on
They
But
base
it-
it on
but-
that. But
but
it
it-
catch. Yeah,
but
please catch.
would they? But would it be based on the fact that, in other words, like
Yeah.
this could be a one-time deal?
Right,
like
right,
we
right.
might give it to a person one year, but not the next year.
Correct.
Right, yeah.
So then if you're making your estimates based on a reduced amount for 3 and 4, could they get in a situation where
Yep.
you underestimate their 1 and 2, and then the 3 and 4 really hit them bad?
That's an assessment. Yeah, I don't know.
So I think that's
Yeah.
why
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot we can do about that.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
But I guess that's the thing. I would wonder how it would work, because I think that's the thing I would worry about. Right? Is that they would, if they're having trouble and then they get a what do we call a payment from us, or they get a credit from us, and then that lowers their third and contribution, right?
There you go.
Right, a contribution from us for their third and fourth, and that impacts how the first and second. So I think that'd be a question I would want to have
But, yeah.
for the assessors, is to make sure that they're not in a situation, because
I don't think there's anything they can do about that. The system's the system. I mean, you
But
can't change
I
anything.
didn't think
based
it
on
is.
that.
but wouldn't it just
Well,
be
does
based
yours
on
go
what
down?
the
'Cause you
It's
have
not
to
the
pay.
assessors.
Yeah.
It's not
I
the
got
assessors
first year,
estimate.
2
It's
years ago, widowers,
it's what
and then
was.
the second year I got the senior. My taxes don't go down. My taxes stay this. I get the discount,
Yeah.
and then it comes right back up. And
Okay, so that's the question I
Yeah.
have, is that
Yeah.
if our contribution would be factored into how the next year, the estimates, the first 2, or it's going to be going on what the base tax was before the contribution. Because I think I wouldn't want to see a situation being like, oh, then they pay less on their first and second, but then they get hammered the next year, third and fourth.
No.
Okay, that's good to know.
I use a good example. 2 years ago, I filed with Wendy downstairs for a widowers because my wife died.
Right.
But anyways, neither here nor there. I got the credit for widowers. And the following year, my taxes went up by about $500 for the year. And all of a sudden I said, okay, let me file the senior. Put that in for the following year, as well as the widower. They told me I made too much for the widower, but because now they're looking at one person instead of 2. But
Right.
anyways,
Oh, yeah.
senior, then they gave me the discount for that. But I guarantee you, I even asked Wendy when I filed that. I says, does this affect my taxes on a yearly basis? She said, no. She
Okay.
says, whatever the taxes is, you'll get hit with, and then you have to put the amendment
Apply.
whatever it is, the discount in.
But so I guess that's why I would, and this is obviously a later question, but like the idea that like if I would like to know if the assessors are looking at what that base tax payment is, and like looking at the contribution, like anyways, if for example, like if you were a senior and like your kid gave you $500 to help you with your taxes, it's not going to change what your taxes are. It's just changing what you individually are paying.
I mean, when assessor's office is primarily looking at what your property value is.
right. So
Yeah.
so our contribution is
That's
not going to affect what the
No.
next year taxes. Because I would just. That's the thing when I think you said that we look the third and fourth would the first and second of the next year would be adjusted based on the third and
Well,
fourth.
I think the first and second is an estimate.
Right.
Right.
So,
Yes.
and what
But
is
they're
that
not estimating-
estimate based on
The
exactly?
previous years.
The previous years.
third and fourth,
Yep.
yeah.
Tax.
Yes, correct.
Right. Okay. So so our contribution is not going to be like depressing what the amount that the assessor's going to be looking at when they're doing their estimates the next year.
He's saying no.
Okay, that's why I wanted to know.
I don't.
'cause-
I can't speak
Yeah.
on
See,
that
if
end.
you want to look at this is the piece that Wendy gave me
Okay.
that explains what's what on everything, and it says nothing about it will change your taxes for the following year.
Okay.
And she even verbally told me it doesn't
Okay.
change it. And I did find that out when I got my
Okay, good. That's good to know. 'Cause
Yeah.
I just don't want to get a situation where like someone
Yeah.
is like every year I've got to like basically like squirrel away for those first 2 quarters and then get like and then it just becomes like this ping pong thing where they have
Right.
then they have to like because our contribution.
the
is-
other thing we cannot control that's going to have a similar effect is how much money we actually have to give out.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So, 1 year we may have way more money than the next year, and then the next year, I'm sorry, you
Right.
don't get any. And we're going to feel bad about that too, but there's not a whole lot we can do about
Right.
it because we only have what we have, which conveniently leads into the next topic, but we're not done with this one yet. All right, so
So are we thinking? So October 1, just to get back to is October?
I think that's what.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I'll entertain a motion to use October 1 as the date applications are due.
So moved.
seconded.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. 10-1. Okay. Funding options. All right, so obviously we see how from Hanson how that's one funding option.
Yeah.
People on their taxes are going to get the opportunity to donate, and that's pretty out there too. I like that. That's cool. And then we've talked about getting the online. So the biggest, and I talked about this last time. To me, the biggest opportunity that we have for funding is the businesses and the commercials. I want to have, and I was focusing on this stuff, but next meeting I'll focus more on putting together a list of all of the potential. Honestly, every business is a potential donor. Some are going to be significantly more possible to, that's not the word I want, but
Likely or
more likely to donate more than others.
Yeah.
So obviously we want to focus on them, but we also want to focus on all of them. It's my intention to create a spreadsheet with as many businesses as I can possibly come up with manager or owner's name and hopefully email. Once we come up with that, come up with a plan to get out to them. I think we need to also think about some kind of marketing concept. Some of these, I think I printed out in all of the packets, some of the marketing forms that some of these other towns have. It's usually just an 8.5, 11 of some sort that says what it is, and some of them have QR codes that you can scan to donate, and it goes right to their website to donate. That's another thing that we'll want to focus on. I'll put together the application once we're done with it, and our criteria are all on one sheet. So technically, we are theoretically ready to go to start accepting donations once we have I guess we have to wait till the fund is set up before we do that. But I kind of mentioned this before. My thought is to have some kind of sponsorship, levels of sponsorship, kind of like a golf tournament. We have our
gold.
platinum sponsor, we have our gold sponsor,
Yeah.
we have our silver sponsor and our bronze sponsor and our, I don't know what we call everybody else. And, I will talk to Josh about, can we get a page on the website where, or even maybe I'll create a Facebook page that says, our committee, and put the information up there and have our sponsors up there. And, to me, a platinum sponsor, I was getting aggressive, I think, the last meeting, but I think a platinum sponsor is maybe $2,000 a year, maybe. And I think we have some locals that might reach that plateau. Maybe gold is 1,000 and silver is 500 and bronze is 250, and then up to 100 is patrons or whatever we want to call them. I mean, people will see that, and maybe when somebody makes a big donation like that, we can, on our Facebook page, we can put it out there. I don't know. My thoughts, open to everybody else's thoughts and comments on that too.
No, I think that's a good idea. I think that, because I think that if you are a business in town, I think there's some business, owners in town who obviously, I don't want to, but I think you do it so that people know about it. Right. Like you do it for the publicity and the goodwill and everything like that. So anything we can do to help them publicize that they're doing it will make it more likely that they'll donate. Right.
Right.
So I think that
do those levels seem too high, or do they seem good? Like I said, platinum at 2,000. I mean, if we get one or two, that would be amazing. I think that's going to be. It's hard to reach, and that's a big amount. But like I said, I think there might be a couple that might do that. And then see what happens. There might be individuals that might end up being bronze. I don't think I'd make a silver, but I might try for a bronze, see, go from there.
You still get to stand on the platform at the end.
No, well, that I don't know that I'll publicize if that I'll do it, but here I am. I gotta put my money where my mouth is, but I don't know. I just kind of came up with that, and as I drive around town, I went, what about yeah. And we have some new, pretty important businesses downtown that are looking for publicity, I would think. So we'll see how that goes. All right. So
personally, John, just to interject, I want to say 2,000 is a little steep. Yeah. I want to even if you lower that to 1,000 and bring 1,000 there.
Do you agree?
I don't know. I mean,
that's the high one.
That's That's someone might, if one person does it, like you said, one person does it.
I suppose that's true. Yeah.
When you think about
I think there's, if there are lower tiers so it's not like it's like the lowest tier is 1,000 and then you lose. Everybody.
Right.
So it's like if you have I don't think there's any harm in reaching high.
Right.
Because if no one does it, then no one does it.
Right.
But
all
then,
right,
no one will do it. Yeah.
So that's what I had. Platinum 2.
Yep.
Gold 1.
Yep.
Silver 5.
Yep.
Bronze 250.
Yep.
And anything up to 100 is whatever,
All right.
friends of.
Yeah.
Something along the lines of friends of us.
Friends of the elderly.
Foes.
Yeah.
Okay, so all right, so I'll put that. I don't think we have to vote on any of this. I mean, we're just kind of throwing out ideas. I'm not a great marketer, so I mean, I'm good talking to people. My intention is to set up an appointment and go meet with somebody face to face. That's what I'm going to try to do. But if anybody has any skills on creating pages or I don't know,
so you're talking about marketing to businesses.
Coming up with
when you talk about marketing, is that what you're talking about?
Well, just so here's Hingham's flyer, and I'm in the printing business. I used to be in the printing business, so I mean. Hingham adopted, so Hingham's flyer. I thought I didn't print the flyers out.
Yes.
Nope. I didn't
that one's on one of the
So I mean that's just something put together.
I think it's at the front of the Hingham one.
I thought there was something else that was more than just
it's right here.
flyer.
This is the flyer.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Seekonks is pretty basic.
Please help.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean,
no, I think like making. You're talking about making like a flyer like this that we can.
We can work that out. That's not a problem. I mean, I worked in the printing business for a long time, so shame on me for not building pages.
And I'm not pushing the thing. I like that it goes to the assessor's office and questions only because they have more time than us.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Not to be no. They can pick up applications in the in the collector's office as well. But we're trying to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
All right.
We
now
wait
that
on
you
so
say
many
that,
more people.
Let me go back here.
and she has the experience, I think, too, from doing all the other abatements,
Right.
what to ask. And they
Okay,
they
so-
have they don't have any confidentiality in our office. We're a fishbowl.
Yeah.
Just
Well, when I guess maybe when we can talk about that when
Yeah.
John's here next
Okay.
time because
Yeah.
he'll have But I think that I agree
Yeah.
with you. I think that's a
Yeah.
good idea. But
Yeah.
I guess maybe talk to these check
Yeah.
with the assessors first before we
Before we put
start
it on
starting
them.
to
Yeah.
work.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
Okay, so
And I'm not trying to get out of work.
No, I-
That's
yeah,
what I'm
no.
saying.
new
Yeah.
business,
being-
discuss and possible vote on application. All right, so the application we already have. We already know that we're going to change the disabled under eligibility, the second line item. We're going to stick with the area medium income. Everything else we already voted on. Applicants must have lived in Whitman and held title to the tax property for 5 or more years. Income. All right, so this is something we should talk about. Income shall include all income such as pensions, interest from savings accounts, IRAs, stocks, or bonds. Total income limits, 80% of median income, say below. Assets which include stocks, bonds, CDs, IRAs, and any tangible liquid asset will be considered in determining eligibility and aid amount. So basically, you start off with 80% of your median income, or you're up to 68. So if your income is under that, you're eligible. So you got to put in your income. You got to put in all those other things to tell us exactly where your total income limit is. So I don't know. I know the form that you gave us, Ken,
Yeah.
had some other stuff. I don't know if you're.
The include copies of, yeah. The reason I put those in there is that's exactly what I needed to file for the senior discount and or widower's discount.
Okay.
They wanted a copy of your last year's federal tax 1040 so that they could see the amount you physically claimed, so that they knew you weren't playing games, so to speak.
Right.
Because that was my question too. Is that like we're not going to go around and if someone has IRAs, stocks and bonds and annuities and all these things, and they just don't tell us, we're not going to know.
We're not.
No.
gonna know.
Right. So that would be something that like a tax form would let us. They would
Exactly,
know that.
yeah. But if you go looking through it, but the other thing they asked separately, to me, at least when I filed, is they wanted your bank and loan statement, a copy of it, with last year's dividends or interest. They wanted a copy of your 1098, your mortgage statement, so that they knew how much you were paying out as well as coming in. And if you have any other outstanding loans, such as I'll use a car loan, so that they knew what your expenditures were versus income. And then they wanted your SSA 1099 SM is what it's called, but that's the form that the government gives you at the end of the year. Here's how much in Social Security you made for the year. Not your regular, whatever it's called, SS 10, whatever. That's your one you get weekly or monthly or whatever it is. But then above and beyond that, any pensions or IRAs. Or
Okay, so
Annuities.
going
That's
on
a good,
that.
that's a good point that I don't think that had occurred to me yet, which is that you could have two people that have the same income level, but one owns the home, one still has a mortgage. Those people are in very different financial situations. You know,
Somebody that owns a home,
But don't forget, when you file your 1040...
if they don't have a mortgage, I mean, that's
yeah. Well, I'm saying though, but we wouldn't know that necessarily, right?
Yeah,
if we're just
true.
looking at income level.
Right.
There could be someone who has a lower income, but they own their home,
Right.
And that means they have a lot more actual tangible money at the end of the
Yep.
day than someone who makes more
Right.
but still has a mortgage.
Oh,
all
yeah.
right. So let's.
So I
With
think
that in
Ken's
mind,
point
let's-
about having some of those documents.
So flip to page 2, which is the actual what they are requiring in the application.
Right.
Page 2 is the actual application. So owners, obviously, who
Yep.
we are.
There you go, yeah. CD.
If other results, if other results read, you must list their income and provide copies of their 2024 federal income tax. So it must say somewhere over here that we're requiring. Let me go back there. All right, so bottom of page 1. Sorry, back to the front page. Your 2024 federal income tax submission must accompany this application if you are required to file. If you're not required to file, okay, blah, blah, blah. So they're asking for the Federal income tax right there. Page 2, distribution, so they're not gonna ask for everything there. So now we're back to the application. So if there's other adults in the household, we need their federal income tax too. So now we go down here, property, current savings accounts, CDs, IRAs, stocks, bonds, other real estate, other assets. Gross income, pensions, Social Security. Yeah, they're just writing it down. There's no saying,
These are the documentations we need.
yeah, there's no
So I
saying.
guess would that be on a lot of that would be on not all of it though would be on the
No.
tax return, right?
On
So
the 1040, it depends on how if you're the owner and you file a 1040 as joint,
Yeah,
you shouldn't have to include the other people in the household because suppose they're grown adults.
Yeah,
they
yeah.
earn their own money. They're paying their own way.
Right.
I mean, they might be giving you money for room and board, whatever the case, but
Yeah.
neither here nor there. The 1040 shows you and your wife, period.
Right.
And that's basically all at least that's all I had to file. Of course, my kids are growing up and gone, so maybe
But that's-
if it
but that's-
said that, I didn't put it.
but that might be something you would want to know too. Like if you have grown children who are living in the house and can contribute,
right.
like
True.
that's a different
Okay.
thing. If you like for example, if you're all
Right.
alone,
Right.
right, and
Yeah.
then there's somebody else who has like their three garbage sons living with them or whatever.
Yeah.
But they could
That's true, yeah.
they could be contributing, and we wouldn't necessarily know what the true financial statements of those two people would be, right?
Yeah, that's true. But
So if we just did a 1040, so I think listing the other adults in the house is important,
Right.
Okay.
and their financial information, because that would make a difference to me. I think if I was looking at someone who lived alone.
So I think this
And someone who
application
lived with-
does cover that, but what it doesn't cover is it doesn't ask for anything other than the federal income tax return.
Yeah, I think I would want to see the. And I already forget. I'm not great with all the tax number
Okay.
things, but the
Yeah.
mortgage one,
yes.
where you can see, so that we can see what they're paying for their home, because
Yeah.
Right.
I think
1098,
not the tenant. Thank you, 1098.
Yes.
that makes a difference too, because two people could have two very different mortgages,
So-
right?
Right.
What-
Like,
yeah.
I mean, depending on when they bought their house, they could have
That's it.
that.
Not only did they want to know how much you were paying, but they wanted to know what the balance was
Yeah.
when I had to file it. I had to fill out 2 different lines.
Yeah.
And they wanted to see a copy of it that said, X amount is left outstanding. This is the amount I'm paying
Yeah.
per
So-
month or whatever.
For the form that I did email this to you guys a while ago, but this form that Ken had, he said your federal tax form 1040,
Yep.
Social Security benefits form SSA-1099 SM, pension or retirement form 1099R, bank interest form 1099-INT, bank mortgage form 1098 must show payment balance. Bank loan statement must show payment balance. Bank statement balance, savings, and checking.
Matter of fact, Ryan, that form I gave you, if you go online
Yeah.
and look, they give the form you have to fill out. And it goes right
The
through.
assessor's
everything
office
that
does?
Yeah, the assessor's office. It goes right through all these that I listed here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That you have to list, just like this piece that John wrote up, printed up.
But these are all also, going back to the onerous thing, these are all forms that people should have. These are in other words, this is like, your mortgage,
Yeah. Oh,
say,
yeah.
These are all things that people should have.
Correct.
They're not going to go, these aren't things that we're asking people to go and
Right.
wait at some, bureaucratic office somewhere. These are all things that get mailed to them every year
Yes. Yeah.
that they should have.
Right.
So I don't feel terrible about asking for them as being a huge burden to people.
Right. So, and, April, they're filing their
Yeah.
taxes. We're going all the way to October
yeah.
1st. So you got plenty of time to get this thing done.
Right.
Here's one drawback I'll give you, that when I file for the senior or the widow or whatever, all right, let's say, for instance, I filed this year, January. It did not want my 2024 information, it wanted 2023.
Right.
Because in 2025, you might not have finished your 2024 taxes. You might not have gotten all your statements by the end of January. So they go back a year.
Well,
so
that-
in 25, you're filing 23.
But we're also not asking them to bring it into the fall. So they'll definitely have. So we're
Right,
going to.
they'll have
so,
it by then, yeah.
So, but here we are. We're going in. This is a fiscal 26 application.
Right.
We're asking for
For 25s.
24.
Fiscal
24.
24?
Yeah.
Right, because you
Yeah,
just filed your
that's
24.
right, yeah.
So
Right.
even though this is for 26,
Yeah.
Yep.
you're in 25. That, I
Right,
mentioned that
right.
But
before.
it'd be that year's,
Yeah,
like, you know, like we all just
Yeah.
filed our 24s
Yeah.
a
Right.
few months ago,
right.
you know, or a month or so ago. So it's like, it's not going back, you know, so in other words, it's not like we're asking for like previous years, it'll be that year's.
But we're
Tax
also
documents.
dealing with the town's fiscal year,
Right.
which is
Yeah.
July 1st to June 30th.
Right.
So
But I think just from the point of view of a person applying, right, they're applying in 25 for 26, and
Correct.
we want that year's,
24.
the 24 that they filed that year. So it's like
Yeah.
all stuff that's current to them. They're not going to have to go digging or go to their accountant necessarily to go get
Right.
old documents. It's like these are all the things that are going to be that they prepared in 25 for 24 to
Yeah.
apply for something in 26. Which,
So again, I believe this form does ask for those numbers. So
Yes.
it just doesn't ask for the backup. So I think it would be pertinent to eligibility. Maybe have a section
Doesn't it ask?
section D over on the second page that says required documents, and then I can list all of these things that Ken's got laid out here.
yeah,
And most of them pension. So applicant one's going to fill in the pension. Well, you're going to give us your pension form 1099R, so you better have the right number in.
yeah,
Yeah.
You know, Social Security, you better have the right number in there because we're getting that form too. Disability, that's different. Interest dividends, we're getting that as well.
yep.
Does it ask for mortgage?
No, I think having a line here which just says what your mortgage payment is.
Yeah, mortgage payment. Yeah, I agree.
I can remember. Let me just see what it said here. What
Because all of this just seems to be like, you know, this with the gross income. Is there an expenses?
Yeah. I
There isn't
think
an expenses thing on
up
this. But if you have any
What,
kind
like the BMW that I drive?
yeah,
Those expenses? Oh, I have to claim that?
yeah. But no, I think that's the thing. Yeah, if they have like, I think adding a section here, maybe
the expense. Yeah.
after the wages or after assistance of like what their expenses are, because different like my dad is 75, but like, you know, I don't want to. Well, this is a public but I mean, he's owned his house for a while, right? And he was a college professor at Massasoit. He has a good state pension. Like his circumstances are very different, you know, in terms of but like he doesn't have a mortgage payment, right?
Right, right.
And he doesn't have a car payment. Like he doesn't have any of those kind of payments. He owns all his stuff. So therefore, it's just so we know what we could find out what his income would be, but we wouldn't know that almost all of his income, you know, he gets to keep. Versus someone else who a lot of their income is going to pay for their mortgage, their car payment, their, you know.
Yeah.
What do you got?
I was going to say, one piece that it does say on this, even though it only asks for assessed valuation of your home, amount of mortgage, and monthly payment, it states at the top, gross receipts from all sources in proceeding calendar year, copies of your federal and state income tax return and other documentation may be requested to verify your income.
So which one is that? Is that
This is the senior, the 40,
senior one? Okay.
41 or 17D,
Okay.
41D, whatever it is.
But we're
But-
talking. Yeah.
The actual form, yeah.
But I think that like any kind of like I think we talk about loans, right? You know, just you know, loans, car notes, mortgage, like information like that is important, and I think
Right.
it's important to know because that means that their dollars are going less. You know, they have less dollars than we think they do because they have all of these liabilities.
Oh, yeah.
So Hingham has expenses, property taxes, mortgage, utilities, home and car insurance, medical insurance, prescriptions.
Wow.
Good one, yeah. So maybe you want to take more of a look at Hingham and combine the two of them a little bit.
Ooh. Yeah, that's
Assistance.
not that much, huh?
So property tax, mortgage, utilities, prescriptions.
Hingham
yeah.
actually isn't as long as I thought it was.
No, Seekonk is.
Yeah, Seacont's really long.
Seekonk's really long.
All right, maybe I'll take a look at these again. All right, so
Hingham's is because what's Hingham in the back here? Is this just the certification thing in the back? Yeah. Fine.
See, I'm trying
Yeah,
to
they have a shorter. Property.
base most of the stuff on what Whitman has for
Yeah.
the filings right now for discounts.
Mortgages, utilities, home and car.
well, they have theirs due by April 1st.
Who does?
Hingham.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. So great discussion. No, we'll just
Add some expenses.
pass this to the next meeting, and I'll take into consideration everything and make some modifications to what we've got here.
I mean, I think adding the documentation that Ken listed
Right.
as required documentation, and then maybe just like copying the expense lines from the Hingham,
one.
application and put it on the Easton one,
Yep.
because then we'll be able to match those up with
True.
the tax documents they're giving us.
And you're on the last page, page 4. You get 23 in a couple.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I just crossed it
Okay.
out. All right, cool. All right. So Saturday is the vote. We'll have
Yeah.
a new treasurer.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
What do you mean, perhaps? There's only one person on the ballot, right? Oh, why? Oh, she knows something. She knows something. Okay, I'm not going to force it. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yep.
All right, so we'll wait and see.
Yep.
We'll. Mr. Noska might have changes in his board. We'll see what happens there. So other than that, so why don't we? I didn't put it on the agenda, but why don't we figure out when we want to meet again?
I'm also the assistant, so I'm close by. I can come up, till if you need me to.
So where were we? We're going into June.
Yep.
I'm pretty much wide open the week of June 9th or June 16th.
June 16th is the teen. Yeah, it's the holiday. And
I'd also say just personally,
Yeah.
the last day of school is the 13th. So
So you would prefer to meet before that?
Oh yeah, so like the week of the 9th, I will still be free in the mornings.
How about Wednesday the 11th?
That's fine with me. Yeah,
Sounds good with
Yep.
me. Yeah.
and then obviously like when if we need to meet in July or August, I can find someone to stay with my
Right.
kids so I can come meet. But if it doesn't matter to anybody else, doing it in a week that my kids are already being taken care of by the
schools.
fine people at the Whitman Public Schools makes it a little bit easier for me.
There you go.
Gotcha. All right. So next meeting is June 11th at 10:30, and we'll be right here. All right. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Unanimous. Awesome. Thank you, everybody.